All right, guys, I always like to start this video with the powerhouse of this boat, and it is the Yamaha Show VMAX. It's the 250. This is a 2024 outboard. And you've heard me say this before, but 100% the key piece on this boat to get me to and from. And that's important in tournament fishing. Every piece of equipment's important, but if you can't get there and back, it does no good. And really proud to be with Yamaha this long. It seems like every year these motors get better and better and better. And like last year's show, this is the new one. And the biggest takeaway for me is amazing gas mileage, amazing low-end torque. I'm running that 25 Ti prop on it. And the upgraded alternator in this motor. And so every time I'm running, that motor is juicing up everything, giving me more power. And as you take this walk though, when you see all the electronics and lights, power is good. So 250 VMAX Show, great motor. And then if you look side by side on this thing, straddling this motor, of course, you got to have power poles. Who doesn't put power poles on their boat? And these things are so important for a lot of reasons. I think when people see poles, they automatically assume power pole is just to stop you in shallow water when you're fishing. And yes, they're great for that. These are the 8-foot poles. I love black on this boat. And when I want to slow down or stop when I'm fishing, they're perfect. But so many other uses for these poles. At the ramp in the morning, launching the boat, stopping to retie, all those things. And even when I want to slow my drift in deep water, I just put these things down. It slows my drift, lets me fish a little slower. All right, let's keep going. And as we get into the nitty gritty, you're going to notice that this Yamaha outboard and the power poles are both mounted to this jack plate. And this is a really amazing plate for me. This is the Atlas hydraulic plate, TH Marine product. And man, I've been running this so long, I can't even put a date on it. But a hydraulic plate for me to have that control is so important. And here's my general on my Atlas plate. Rough water, difficulty getting in on pad, big waves, super deep water. When I want more torque and low end power, I trim that thing all the way down. Middle of the road conditions, normal conditions, I want that Atlas plate about halfway up. And then the last one, and this is big for me because I try to always get to fish no one else gets to. And a lot of time that means ultra shallow water, skinny mud, flats, sandbars, all the way up, or your highest performance you'll get out of it is all the way up. So a lot of versatility in that plate. Side imaging, down imaging, traditional 2D is just as important as it was before forward-facing sonar. Forward-facing sonar is pretty important. But 2D, down imaging, and side imaging, especially when I'm at the console, it's critical. So I mount not one, but two of the Lowrance side imaging transducers on this jack plate. I'm using this amazing mount, and they have right-left mounts by a company called Transducer Shield. Been using this mount for years. It's super heavy duty, but the reason for a right and left transducer is simple. If something happens, if one of these gets ripped off, if one of them gets damaged, if the crystals get damaged, if you bash a rock or hit a tree or whatever, I have another one in its place so that I never have downtime. I always have that transducer in the back. So very, very critical piece of equipment, left and right transducers, of course, on the Transducer Shield mount. So there's my powerhouse outboard, the Yamaha. The rest of the power all comes from here, and it's powering a lot of stuff. Lights, cameras, depth finders, hydrowave. Think of all the electronics that we have in today's boat. Working with ProGuide the last few years has been amazing, and I made the switch from standard AGM batteries to lithium. Listen to me, nothing wrong with AGM, but lithium gives me a lot more power and it gives me a weight reduction. All right, let's start on the cranking side, which is the left side. We have not one, not two, but 3 cranking batteries in place. If you look, we've got the 2 ProGuide lithium 31s side by side, run in parallel, and those 2 are my main batteries for starting the outboard, for running the cameras, for running the electronics. And there's so much more power when you rig 2 31s like that together. And it gives me a lot of power throughout the day. And if for some reason those batteries didn't get charged, or if for some reason I'm running the electronics for days and days and days, forget to turn them off, and something happens where I lose power on those main 2 batteries, I basically have on just a little panel in the back, I have a Perco switch, and I have it rigged that if I have failure on my main batteries, I just switch it. I go to that standalone third 31 battery, and I've got enough power to get me through the day. I've got enough power to start the outboard. I've got enough power to run the electronics. It is an amazing system. Trolling side, guys, you're gonna see a mirror image to the cranking side. And on the trolling side, I'm also running 3 ProGuide lithium batteries, but instead of the 31s, these are the 36. This is the 36 M50s, and I have it rigged the exact same way, guys. I just go to my Perco switch, boom, boom. I go to that standalone 36 sitting in the back. I've got enough power to run me throughout the day, and it saves my day. This system with the 6 batteries and the Perco switches is all about having a security blanket. Guys, I've been doing this for 30 years. The worst feeling in the world is to have your trolling motors or your electronics or your cranking battery go dead on the water. This solves that problem. It's never a worry. And to me, it's the ultimate battery system. All right, everybody, we're at the console, and this really is the control center for this boat. It's an important part of the boat. Before I go any further, let me remind you that all of this installation, everything I'm talking about, was, of course, installed at Integrated Boat Works. Darren did an amazing job. Please check him out. Click on the link below. You get all the info for Integrated Boat Works in Oklahoma. All right, let me get on to it. Guys, right here, I spend so much time sitting here, I can't even tell you. Between pre-practice and official practice and scouting, I feel like a lot of my life as a fisherman is right here. And this is a pretty important place. So start out, of course, guys, with the electronics. And these are the brand new Lowrance HDS Pros. These are the 12s, and they are phenomenal. 2 side-by-side Lowrance HDS 12s. In fact, I'll go through real quick with you and show you the setup of how I use them. My left one, and I have a habit of putting side imaging to my left. And so, you know, side imaging is so important because I can look out 80, 100, 120 feet on either side of the boat. And as I'm looking out there, if I see, you know, a stump, or if I see a rock pile or a high spot or a divot or a ditch, I can put my cursor on it. I hit the waypoint button. I mark that waypoint, and now I have it forever. So I use my left HDS Pro 12 strictly for side imaging. And then my right unit is kind of a combination unit for me. Down imaging, traditional 2D, mixed with the map. they're the units that I'm using on the console. Again, Lowrance HDS 12 Pros, pretty amazing. But I also have to have them secured on a great mount. This is my 4th year, guys, using the boat Logix mounts. I've got them here on the console and also up front. We're going to take a look at the ones in the front. But, dude, talk about a solid mount. Like, as far as security and not moving and safety and big waves and occasionally the boat in the trees, don't do that. Depth finders are important. Sonar is critical. GPS, critical. But I'm also a big fan of iPads in the boat. And using an iPad for satellite imagery, using an iPad to look at your tides, to get lock information, right? It puts a bigger screen right there at your hand. So this is another product that's been in my boat from the very beginning. And this is a ram mount product. It's the tab tight. And you can stick a standard size iPad in. And if you look, it's that mid-sized ram ball. And especially when I'm practicing, guys, during those practice periods, it's a great little system. And I just mount my iPad right here, and it gives me a little more information. And this is the Ram Mounts X Grip phone mount, which is pretty awesome. And I can put my phone right there, and if I want a selfie, or if a phone call comes through, not during a tournament, of course, I can get to it really easily. All right, last thing here in the console, and then we're going to go up. By the way, let me show you something that might blow your mind. I don't think I've ever done this on my walkthrough video.
Do you want to see something super cool that only 3 people have ever seen in their lifetimes?
Guys, if you look under the console, no hot foot. No hot foot. I don't run a hot foot. All right, let me explain. I don't run a hot foot for 2 reasons. The first reason is, notice the gray in the beard? I'm an old guy.
Hi there, young people. It's a nice day today.
And a lot of the old guys like me, the old timers, don't run a hot foot because when I started driving a bass boat, back when the dinosaurs were roaming the earth, there was no hot foot. There was no hot foot. So I learned how to drive this boat without it. The second reason is I like to be active in the console, especially when I'm practicing. And I've learned to do everything with the throttle. So that allows me to get high up in the seat when I'm scouting. It gives me a higher vantage point for navigation, for safety, but also just to look in the water. I do a lot of what I call high-speed idling, where I'm just really looking around with my eyes. That's why I don't run a hot foot. One last thing at the console, and then we're going to go up front, is I have one other mount right here, and I always like to run a camera, guys. And if you're watching this and you want to document your fishing, I almost always run a GoPro or some form of action cam. And this is another ram mount product. And this is just a little action cam mount. It's on the smallest ball. Most of those action cams are real light. So I just put it in right here. I've got a little USB port that right under the console that I plug into. And this thing is always filming my fishing. So it captures everything, the good, the bad, the exciting, the ugly. Everything's captured on my GoPro. All right, let's go up to the front, and I want to show you the last critical area of this boat. By the way, before we get up there, maybe I'll show you a little bit of the layout of this boat. Guys, once again, this is the Basscat Cougar FTD. One of the things I love about this model is the layout. I normally carry 30 to 35 combos with me when I'm practicing, and this thing stores them with no problem. There's a good look, guys, at that amazing storage system with, you know, rod holders up top, but with an open bottom. So I have a ton of storage, right, for my rods in the rod holders, but I can also put a whole lot just down below that main storage, and it really lets me stack those rods. So tons of storage to this left box, all my rods and reels, 25 to 35, normally about 30 combos in that box. All right, let's get to the middle box. And for me, this is an area where I store my soft plastics. So I like to carry more than less, but I'll give you an idea how I typically carry my plastics. And it's a great system that makes finding stuff very simple. It's always at your fingertips. I use Flambeau boxes, and these are that bigger size box, and I label everything. So I have the type of plastic labeled on it, side and top. So this particular box is Pit Boss, one of my favorite plastics by Berkley. And then when we go inside, you're gonna see that I have just rows of different colors. Stay efficient and save time. All right, so if you think about the weight of things, jigs and terminal tackle and tungsten weights, that's in the back. But up front, soft plastics, not very much weight, rods and reels, not very much weight, and all of my crankbaits, jerk baits, top waters, wake baits, stuff like that. Anything with a treble hook. 3, that's my magic number. I always want to have 3 of every bait in case something happens. And it's organized, it's at my fingertips, and I can get to it real easy. But in this box, there are things like swim baits, things like buzz baits, spinner baits, things that don't weigh a lot, but it's a great area to access the lighter remaining tackle. All right, let's keep going. Now I want to show you the nose of the boat, and this is also an important area. Spend a lot of time up front, and I've got it dialed into the way that I fish. Top 12, this upper 12 for my forward-facing sonar. That technology has become so important today, guys, that I want that top image, that first thing that I see when I'm looking down, to be that forward-facing sonar. So take a look at the transducer in a second, but top unit, forward-facing sonar, and then when we go down to the bottom 12, kind of the same split that I talked about on my right unit at the console. I can use this for a combination of things. Most of the time, it's a tri-screen, which is 2D, side imaging, down imaging, all linked together. So think about that. 2 12s, HDS Pros, right on top of each other, right? Mounted, just stacked mount on a Bass Logix mount, but all that information at a glance, right? So I got that trolling motor down, I'm fishing, I'm using my forward facing like a flashlight. I'm also looking at 2D. I'm also looking out 100 feet each way. I'm also looking at down imaging for better bottom separation. And dude, that information is hitting me as I'm fishing. Really, really important. But you heard me say it, third unit up front, HDS 9, and this one I'm going to use for 100% mapping. You know, a lot of guys will get all this stuff up here and then forget about mapping, but mapping is just as important for me. So using my Lowrance C mapping, staying on a contour, lining up on a waypoint, knowing exactly how far I have to cast to hit a brush pile. All those things, following a trail, all those things are important, and that's why I have that separate 9, once again, mounted on a boat Logix mount. So because I'm right-handed, right is my dominant side, I have my down button on the right side and my up button on the left. So easy to stop, easy to control my boat. If you look, and this one I really wanted to get off of the deck. And the nice thing about this Basscat Cougar FTD, it has a recessed area right in front of the foot pedal. And I mounted the Hydra Wave there. It's another TH Marine product, but I can tell you guys, I've seen sound trigger those fish so many times that I always install that Hydra Wave up front. Last but not least, and I saved this for the last because it's pretty critical when you're tournament fishing. It's pretty critical when you're fishing, is the trolling motor. Once again, you've heard me say it before, this is the Lowrance Ghost, and this thing is bad to the bone. Brushless motor, quiet, really no heat because it's brushless. Your batteries are going to last a lot longer, and tons and tons and tons of power. 130 pounds of thrust on this motor. It's pretty amazing. So before we even get into the trolling motor, let's start with this little amazing contraption right here. And this is a TH Marine troll tamer. And you know, for a Ghost, I want to keep this thing secure. I don't want it bouncing all over the place. And I've added this troll tamer product that locks it in. All I have to do is just hit that switch with my foot. When I hit my first spot, it allows this motor to go up. When I'm done the fishing, it falls back down, and listen for it locking. You ready? Listen. You heard that lock? And now it's secure again. Next thing, as we go down this motor, you're gonna see this really cool little contraption right here. And Darren at Integrated Boat Works got me this product, and it's really cool because it just refines the ability to make accurate pinpoint cast with that forward facing. This little directional arrow does not lie. It's nice because it's got just a kind of a little hinge there. It hinges up, then you can lock it into place. And you know that on every cast, it's pinpoint because that arrow points exactly where that transducer is going to go. All right, last thing we've got here, and this is really an amazing thing, is the Active Target transducer. This is the Active Target 2, which marries with that HDS Pro 2. And guys, this is really changing the game. You know, love it or hate it. And I'm an old guy. I'm almost playing catch up when it comes to forward-facing sonar. Love it or hate it, this is a technology you have to have. So have that Active Target, mount it right on the troll motor. Best way to describe it, it's like a flashlight. When you shine it out there, what you see is there. There's no false image. If you see a fish, it's a fish. If you see a tree, it's a tree. Great piece of technology. That's it, guys. This has been a fun walkthrough. I hope you enjoyed it. This honestly is not only my work vehicle, it's not only the place I spend a lot of time, but I take a lot of pride in these builds, and I love my Bass Cat. So I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough of my 2024 Bass Tournament rig. If you want, I'm selling it at the end of the year. Hit me up. Bye. By the way, guys, huge shout out to Mike and Corinne at VFX Wraps for putting the beautiful skin on this new boat.